Okay guys, I recently created a promo image for one of my games and I've decided I want to create a little animation inside this scene. So first of all I wanted to create this video to show you how I did this promo image, and then I'm going to walk you through the process of creating a timeline and then rendering out the final animation. Okay. So how do we get started? Now, it's very black. I'm going to repeat myself in some of the videos. You hit Control L to make it light. So what it is that in DAS you usually are in the mode where your scene without NVIDIA lighting is only lit in the areas where spotlights point to. So that's bad because in my case, the entire cast, there are no spotlights on it. So therefore but I still want to see them, so I'll hit Control N and then I switch the mode to where the entire scene is evenly lit in some sense. I still haven't figured out how it's calculated because usually you should see the ground. I'm not sure why it's dark, probably because the angle is too steep. But yeah, there are some calculation that DAS makes, but usually I find it pretty easy to work with this mode. And I'm not sure if there's an alternative. Okay, now, first of all, how does this scene look? I'm going to switch into NVIDIA iWrite mode for a second, and I hope that that this doesn't wreck everything, that this doesn't wreck my recording, because this scene is pretty heavy. At least it would be pretty heavy if I didn't optimize it in some sense. And that's one thing that I want to talk about. I have one, I should have 10 people in the scene. I could count them, but I'm so lazy right now. I should have 10 people in the scene, and they all have their own unique body textures and all of that. So usually this would be too heavy for my my graphics card to render out. And that's pretty much the limit of my graphics card. Maybe I can fit in 5, 6, 7 models, full models, fully closed, and the scene in the background. But 10 models, that's just a little too much. Now what did I do? I removed all the normal maps and all the bump maps and all the... I could remove more than that, but I used a tool, an asset that's called Scene Optimizer to help me with that, but you could do it per hand and just remove normal maps. Not make the factor zero, but remove them altogether. I'm not sure how smart DAS is when it comes to rendering. And here you see my one little image, the first place of a camera, and I want to make an animation. Oh yeah, I want to make an animation that comes from a left and jumps out to the top right. So you'll see in the end the final product. But first of all, I want to tell you how I created the scene, or what are the things that are part of the scene. To do that, I'm going to get out of NVIDIA Array mode because that would be a little too heavy to move in here. And now I can go into perspective mode and we can look around a little. Now, what are the things that are important? Well, the floor, of course. It gives the image a bit of depth, and I wanted to have... I worked with a reference photo from from a memory. So I didn't have it open, but I recently saw something similar. I can even tell you where I saw it. It was the anime Gate, and it's the opening sequence from the second half. There are flashing lights behind a few characters and a black background, and then their silhouette gets lit up. And I thought that you should be able to do that with DAS, and it should look pretty good. And now I did it. Okay, what did I do? My first thought was to create a glass structure in the background that makes sure that the entire thing is lit up in some sense, or uh, the light is broken and sent into the direction to the camera. Because one thing that we have is if we go to the back, I'm going to hide all the figures here because we are just going to look at the background for a second. Oh, I didn't parent Esther, but now I did. Okay. So if we are here in the background, these spotlights that you see, these should be actual circles? No, they're not. But in the top? Also not. What's going on? I thought I made this spotlight an actual surface. So something like natural surface. A disk light. Disk light that's 100. Why is this looking so strange? Usually I would guess that this disk light should be an actual disk. An actual disk. So you would see like a plane that's an emissive surface. But this time it's for some reason not the case. Okay, but still we can look. It's a little pixelated. I know pretty much where we are, so sometimes you have to deal with the pixelation for a second, but then we're going to stop and you can look at the scene a little more. So what have I done? I've created cones. Cones? These like pyramids, but with more sides, so that it looks very round, because that's pretty much what it is. It's a pyramid with probably 100 sides or something like that. And yeah, I made them pretty tall, and I had spotlights look projecting into these combs. And I gave these combs a texture. It was a standard glass texture as far as I know. I think DAS comes with these textures in some sense. If not, I can look at the surface for a second. And yeah, here tag solid, frosted, clear. What's that? Glass, solid, frosted, clear. Maybe that's something you can work with. It's probably the name of a shader that I used in some sense, and I think these are actually come with DAS. Roughness, you can. I'm going to scroll through this, and if you want, if they aren't inherent to DAS, you can copy them here. Okay, this should be it. Yeah, refraction weight to 1 for refraction index to 1.55, and glossy roughness is turned up. That's pretty much it, and the base color is turned down a little. Okay. Now, what else did I do? I had these spotlights from the top. So let's go back to our main light, add to our main camera, and see what these things do. Now, I created the middle cone first. For some reason, since I double it, it's now cone number 3. Then to cone number 3 are part of cone number 3 is spotlight number 2 and spotlight number 1. So let's hide spotlight number 2 and see what's happening. And let's hide spotlight number 1. Okay, spotlight number 1 should be the one from the back, I think. Not sure, let's look. Okay, spotlight number 1. Spotlight number 2. Spotlight number 2 is that one, that from a background. Okay, now spotlight number 1 is the one that's illuminating the first cone from the top, and it looks pretty neat. And spotlight number 2 is the one from a background, and it makes everything a little brighter, and we have more light coming to the camera. And with these two spotlights, I illuminate the middle cone. And I think that's pretty good. Now the right and the left cone, those are pretty much the same thing. One thing that I did is I brought in the innermost cone. I'm probably just wrecking this word, sorry. And you can see it here. These cones are parented to a middle cone. So those are relative numbers towards a middle cone. And I've placed them 150 to the back and 50 to the right. And here I place them 100 to the left and 100 to the right. And yeah. I even messed up this one here. But it doesn't really matter. Nobody cares. Yeah, okay. What else is there to say? Well, the floor is pretty good, neat. I can just remove the depth of field from camera for a second, so you can see them a little more clearly. Yes, here. These are materials that I probably used from some third website that gives you PBR, tries to sell you PBR shaders, but those are free shaders. I know that because I didn't buy any other shaders. Sorry for website, but they are very useful. They are really very useful and they're pretty beautiful. You can see it here. There's a lot of detail. And in the background, the one here, it's a cube, but you could just make a plane. And yeah, this is also a PBR shader. Why did I add the cube in the background? Now let's just theoretically hide this one. Now the background is black. The problem is that the characters are black silhouettes, and a black silhouette on a black background is just messy. It's just awful because you can't see it. And that's why I added the cube in the background so we can see something. Now, one thing that I wanted to take a look for a second is what happens if I look at the entire scene from this angle, and I'm going to create a camera because this is important for my animation, and I'm going to switch to camera 2. Yes, this looks good. This looks actually pretty good. Because one thing that I was afraid of is that maybe you can see it because I'm using a bad monitor here, that you can see the plain ending in the background. So maybe I have to change that in the final animation, but maybe I don't have to do that. Okay, now the part starts where we are going to animate our camera. And for that we are going to just delete camera number 2 because we don't need it anymore. And we can unparent Jack because he's the one standing right in the middle. So I want a timeline, and I want this timeline to be yeah, this is awful. I want this timeline to be 120 long. No, I want 24 times 4, I think, which should be, if I'm not mistaken, yes, I'm taking out a calculator right now. Sorry. Give me a second. 24 times 4 should be 96. So 96, we want 96 images. Why do I want 96 images? Because I want 4 seconds of animation at most. So I'm probably going to shrink that one down and post work it to 2 seconds because I want something very fast in some sense. Okay. Now we are going to look at our camera. We're going to say it should pan in a little. So we are going to make how are these things called? We're going to hit this but a keyframe. We're making a keyframe right here, and we are going to take this one and we're going to move the camera to the left. Here's something like this. I want a fast pan in, so we can't really go overboard here. No problem. So if we have this one, we have a very fast pan in. Then I really want a very slow to a right movement. Something like this. So we have this one. How's that one looking? No, we want more to the right. Okay. Here. We have fast pan in. We're going to the right. We can even go in a little. Here's something like this. And we want to go out. So how do we want to go out? We want to do something like this, and maybe that one works. Here. So how is this one looking? This looks very bad. Why is that? This doesn't make sense. Well, it does make sense because I know that DAS uses movement in some sense to make movement smoother, and there should be some place where I can switch this one off. but I have no idea where. Probably I have to read through all of this to find this one property that I have to change. Monitor parameters. What's that? Okay, I have no idea. Shit. Okay. View all frames, property types, toggle looping, skip the previous, delete, key creation, set key interpolation. Set key interpolation. Shouldn't this one be something? Linear, clear animation, undock pane. No, I don't want to do any of that. Do I have an option here? Set key interpolation. Set key interpolation sounds like the right thing, but I can't do anything. So do I have to select key to set key interpolation? How about constant? Nope. So if I set key interpolation to linear, oh, this one seems right. This actually worked. I have no idea. I've never worked with this setting, and it will make the animation a little confused. A little. Probably go like this, and yeah, I want here this one. Do I want to turn the camera in some sense? Here. What's going to happen if I take the camera parameters and rotate it on the Z axis? Now we should go here, and panning out, we can rotate it in this sense, going back, and oh no. We don't want to create another keyframe, we want to create something of our own. So we go up and rotate the camera in some sense. Now we have this one going down. I don't like it. So let's go here back and downwards, because I think this is going to look pretty good. We're going in to the side and we're panning out. And I'm pretty sure that I need to fix the speed of the animation in some sense, but I think this is something we can work with. Now we're going to unhide all the other characters. We're going to look how they are placed in our scene. And I think this one's looking pretty good. So let's go into NVIDIA Iray mode and see how this is going to look. And we're going to go from keyframe to keyframe and see how those will end up in the NVIDIA Iray mode. And when we're done with that, I can hit the render button for this animation, and for me it's going to be 5 hours, and for you it's going to be right away. Probably 5 hours. 90 frames. I probably have to render this one to I shouldn't go lower than 500 iterations. Ooh, this is very, very dark. Do I really want that? Do I want that? I'm looking at the wrong thing. I want to select the camera and then I want to hop keyframes. So this is the beginning. Then it hops to the spot where the camera was in the first place. Then it hops to the little panning section, which should be 2 seconds long. 21, 22, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Yeah, I think this should be the right time. And then it's going to pan out. Okay. Now what's going to happen if we go into our render settings and we're messing around with some settings? So we go to 12, 11, 10. 10 sounds looks interesting. So, or we can stop crushing the blacks, and then we can hop back. This looks interesting. I'm not sure if I want that, but maybe it is good enough. Ha ha ha. Not sure. Really not sure. Do I go up with this one? The exposure value, so it's getting darker, but maybe it still works at the end. Because at the end, I want to see some more of my characters in some sense. Hmm. This isn't perfect, but I think it's good enough. Yes. I'm just thinking about how I can improve this one, but I don't think I can improve it very much. So we're going to render it out and we'll see each other in a second. Okay, the image has, or the animation is rendered out, and well, I found that there was a mistake, or at least there's still a mistake. Now let's look at it for a second, and yes, right here, the pan out. This black space, I don't really want it there, so I'll have to fix it, but it's 1 in the morning. I'm going to sleep. Yes, I'm not really a night owl, at least not always. Only before another release. So I'm going to fix it tomorrow. I'm going to show you how I fixed it, and I'm going to show you final results. Okay, it's the next morning for me, and yeah, I'm going to fix this little animation in some sense. I almost forgot to record this. So here's the animation, and you could have thought that this would be a problem, this background, but you all saw it. I changed the render settings and I didn't check the keyframes afterwards. And that was my problem. So what are we going to do? We're going to create a node instance of the background, new node instance, and we're going to parent it to the initial object. Okay, what does this mean? A node instance means that you have the object twice, but it takes less memory from when you're going to render it, because some things stas can just copy from the initial object, and that's pretty good. So I got into the habit of using node instance if I can. Okay, now I'm going to create another node instance of plane the floor, and we're going to parent it to the initial object. We're going to move it to the side, and we're going to place it right here. Now we can look in the camera, and you can see that it's no longer a problem, but yeah, okay. Something doesn't seem right. Huh. Yeah, this sucks. I'll probably just want to delete these two, and I'm going to start fresh in some sense, because I've created keyframes and there shouldn't be keyframes. So we're going to use the initial keyframes right here. We have here this cube instance, and we're going to pull it to the side. And now if we go through the animation, this cube doesn't move. So that's exactly what we want. And now we have this plane instance, and we're going to move it to the side. And we're still at frame 0, so this is pretty good. And I know that we need another plane, but let's just look at the animation. Okay, we're going through, and we're going through, and we're going out. We're needing way more. We need another wall, we need another plane here, and we need another plane here. Okay, let's do this, and as we learned, we want to do the change set on frame 0, because otherwise if we had left the change of the frame here, or the change of position of the object here, then the object would slowly start from the middle and move to the sides. And this will get very buggy very soon. Okay, now we need another two, as far as I know. So let's select this one. We can just duplicate it. This is pretty good. And we can move it out. And we can do the same one here. Edit, duplicate, nodes hierarchy. I also got into the habit of copying the nodes hierarchy and not just the node. In this instance, it's just not important, but in other instances it might. So let's duplicate this one here, this one, and move it out here. Now I already know that um, uh, the textures don't add up well in the corners. But I'm probably not going to fix it. I'm just going to look at the entire thing again in NVIDIA Iray mode and see if it stands out too much. My guess is that it doesn't, because back there it should be very dark. Maybe this time it works. Okay. Here we want to select camera so we can hop keyframes. Skip to the next keyframe. Yes, those are the ones that I don't have to re-render, and that's something I can show you later. One thing that's pretty cool about recording these videos in the morning is that my voice is very deep, and this should make me sound pretty cool. Okay, and here you don't see any transition here in the background. This will change when the final results turn it out, but for now I think it's good enough. And if it's not good enough, I can I can take a look later and fix it, but I think it will be good enough. Okay, I opened here the Explorer, and I'm going to look at which frames I have to fix so I don't have to re-render the entire animation. And these might be sensitive information, so I forced myself to cut out some part early on, so maybe I didn't do that right and it sounded a little strange. But yeah, I'm looking at the frames here. I can open them, and I can even show you these frames. Okay, here this one is already bad. 69 might be the first good one, so 70 is the first that I have to re-render. And yes, that's pretty much the information that I wanted. You can see here in the background, this looks bad, 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 bad. And yeah, here you can see the line. And yeah, this is the end. And here you should see the line, but my monitor is very bad. Okay. So what's next? What is next? Yeah, we're going to look at how to render this one out. We're going to the render settings, we're going to general, and we say we want an image series. I already did something similar. I already stopped the animation at 12 images, and then I started from the 12th image to the 95th image because my computer went absolutely mental in some sense because I couldn't do anything. And this usually doesn't happen because I only render on the GPU. But this time it did happen. Oh, do I only? Yeah, I only use on my GPU 3060. Pretty good card, I can only recommend it. But it's not the strongest. It's strong enough so I can use DAS while this preview image is there. So that's okay. Now editor, this one. And here are the advanced settings. Maybe you know about it, doesn't matter. Okay. And we said we need image number 70 and we need it to image number 95. And we can look at it. Image 70. Yes, here's the first time we have this other object. And we can confirm it if we go. No, I just want to skip one. So here. And now you can see if I hover over the cube number 2, it lights up the entire scene. So it's good enough that we start from frame 70. Frame 70 to 95, and I called the animation promo black white. Yes, that's not exactly true, but it's the best name I could come up with. Animation and underscore. Why do I do this underscore here? Because the frames that are rendered out, they are numbered. And if I don't put an underscore there, then the number of the frames are right after animation, and I don't want that, so I do this extra underscore at the back. Okay, now I can save it. I could just render it out. I should probably save it, but it takes a minute and I don't want to do that right now. I'm just going to end this little video and then save it and then render it out, and then I'm going to show you the final results. Okay. For you this will be a second, for me it will probably be 3 hours. Okay. Well, it has rendered out, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do post-processing or any edits to the clip. And yeah, for that to do, I'm starting with no, I don't want to do this. I want to drag one of the image in the left side. I'm going to use DaVinci Resolve, the outermost left side, this tab here. So that way I can access directly to the folder structure. I get access to the folder structure, and I can see my animation lying in here. Now I can show you that how you can make it that this animation can be imported, this image sequence can be imported as an animation, like this, so. And there's a trick to it, because maybe you're in a different display mode of image sequences. So I say that sequences should be imported as videos, or be displayed as one video in this file structure. If I go to individual, then all these individual images of a sequence, I could import them individually, basically. That's what the name says. And if I go to auto, I'm giving DaVinci Resolve the ability to decide for themselves whether or not they think this is an image sequence or it's not. And in my case, it doesn't recognize my image sequence as an image sequence, so I'm going to force it to view it as an image sequence. I already imported the image sequence into the project, and now we can edit it and view it. And we probably don't have to edit it very much. But yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag it into my timeline. I'm creating another timeline. I have no idea about DaVinci Resolve. I basically only know the things that I need to edit my videos, and I have any complex knowledge about any of that. But I know how some things work. So basically I dragged it into the timeline, I've created another timeline, and now I can edit this timeline, and in the end, when I'm finished and I'm happy with the results, I can export it as a video. Okay, so let's watch the entire thing through. Is this how I want it to go? Maybe it is how I want it to go. Yeah, okay. We're going to change the timing a bit, and I hope that I'm not wrecking it in some sense. So let's say we want retime speed instead of retime frame. What did I do? I forced it to display the retime curve. I'm not 100% sure what that means. I know that I have to do that to play around with the speed of a clip in certain areas, and I can now add keyframes to this clip, like here, right here, and I can speed up, for example, the remainder of the clip. So now we can see that it travels out very fast. And I can can make this transition smoother, so it looks a bit like this. And maybe that will solve my issue with no, it doesn't. Maybe I want to go down actually. Then I want to create another keyframe somewhere around here. And I want to speed it up again, and I want to make this keyframe here. Maybe keyframe isn't the right word. I want to make this point smoother. So maybe that will fix it. Hmm. I've slowed down the clip here, and you can see that it is getting kind of buggy. Uh, it stutters in some sense. It's not going smooth. And for that, to fix that, we can change the project settings in some sense and tell DaVinci Resolve how it should handle frames where it doesn't have any frames. For project settings, this usually means that it goes for the nearest frame. What does what does that mean? That means that if you are at a point that where you should be in between two frames, because this animation has 24 frames per second, as I think, and maybe you're at between frame 13 and 14, then the one that is nearest to a point that is displayed will be displayed. So this means that here at the lower end we are at 63% of clip speed. This would mean I think 17, 16 frames per second, and 16 frames per second isn't good enough for the human eye to actually think that this is an animation. So what do? We change it from project settings or nearest to optical flow, and we see if this works. So no, it doesn't. Usually optical flow means that DaVinci Resolve creates frames in between the frames, and it creates them in the way that DaVinci Resolve thinks is most optimal. So right here you can see that I'm pointing at the screen. I can just use the cursor. You can see that some people are these double if image fade backs, something like that, and it just looks strange. Usually if you have a very smooth animation, something like this one, here I could probably use optical flow if I slow down the clip. But here especially when the camera moves so much, it doesn't really work. So how do we fix that? We fix it by deleting this entire thing in some sense. Going to import it again. We're going to do the same thing as we did before. Why do I have it as video 2? I wanted it as video 1. Going to retime curve, we're going to use retime speed. Deselect retime frame because this one curve I don't really need it. And yes, now we're going to, instead of slowing down this part here, we're going to speed up the rest. So we have here this. We're going to create a keyframe in some sense. Going to drag this one up. 150, maybe 150 is a bit much, but we will see. Going to see like this. Now, how does this look? It looks better, I think. It does look better, doesn't it? The way it pans out. Here, this one should be sped up in the, also speeded up a little in the end. Let's see what this does for us. And maybe this will look better. Hmm. I don't like it. Let's drag this one a little. Let's speed it up even more. So something like... still don't like it. I don't really want to create too many keyframes because this will just make the animation look very unsmooth in some sense. This shouldn't happen. Why does this happen? Okay, here. Let's drag this one up. And I want a keyframe right here. I want to speed up this part here. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Let's drag this one here. Oh, yeah. I want to decrease this one, I think. Want to increase this one. and I want to add another keyframe somewhere here and drag this one up and maybe make this one like this, and maybe now it looks better. Doesn't really, but I also don't know how to fix it or to make it better. That's the problem, that I just go with my guts with these kinds of things. Maybe the problem that I have with the entire animation here at the end is not about the speed where it travels, but the way the camera pan moves. And I'm not going to render out it again. So I'm probably just going to be satisfied with this iteration of the animation. Let's look at it again and see if we need to change the beginning a little. So we have this one. Maybe I want to have it even faster and to go in a little smoother. So something like this. Yes. I think this one looks good. Goes in. The ending, just drag everything up. Maybe this will be better. So let's see. Why is it stopping right here? It shouldn't be stopping right here. Drag it out. Yeah. Okay, it goes in very fast. And it goes out a little less fast. So what does this even mean? I should be able to drag this one up, but I can't really. Okay, now I did drag it up. Can bring this one out, this one to the side, this one a little to the side. And now I can look at it again. Still not perfect, but I think it's good enough. So let's hide this one. And let's see if we can do some post work on this clip. So I'm just going to have it repeat in the background. And we will see if we want to do anything. Like, we can make it darker. But that doesn't really help the clip. Okay, we don't want to lift it. We can go down. This one looks good. It kind of makes the dark areas more dark, and I really like the way that it looks at the characters. But I think earlier in the animation I specifically had the decision to not make it this dark. This sucks in some sense. Gamma. Is this better? It also just makes it darker. So here contrast could be the right thing. But I don't really want the contrast to be right there. Saturation, maybe I want to have it down. It might be the right thing to do to keep it down, but it might not be. Wow, I'm really bad at these at these decisions. Because I kind of like the way that here we have this blue with Esther and the red, but still it's probably just distracting, so I could turn down the saturation. And yeah, that's... What does this do? Oh, this one is nice. So we can probably do 0.1 here. No, 0.01. This should be better. What I'm doing here is I'm probably crushing blacks, which would mean that the darkest areas get massed into one area. So if you have two gray settings, the darkest two gray settings, they will be squished into one. This looks exactly like that. I think this is it. So here I can maybe play around so the characters are pitch black in some sense. And still, when I zoom out here, we still have some way of viewing the characters. Maybe I should really bring the saturation down to 0. Yes, I should bring it down to 0. And maybe that's how I want it. Maybe that's it. It probably doesn't make sense to do any color adjustment here because there are no colors. There is brightness, but yeah, I don't want to mess with that. So I can cut this node, and I don't know any other node on any other of these nodes. I can probably, yeah, hue curves. I kind of know how they work. I don't want to blur it. So basically, that's as good as it gets for me. I can try to have what does this might do? So if I 0.9, shouldn't this make it brighter in the bright areas? Yes, it does, but I'm not sure what this means. Do I want it like this? I think this looks good, but is it what I actually want? No, 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 this is not what I want. 0.02. And yeah, here, this one. This is... What I can try is 0.02 was this one, and I can create keyframes. So let's see here. Maybe I want to create a keyframe right here, and I want a keyframe right here. And right here I want the exposure level higher, so we can see the characters a little more. This is basically what I want to do. Yes, is this... Yes, I think that's maybe the effect that I wanted to go for. And it's really hard to animate in DAZ. So maybe this is exactly what I wanted to do. So you pan out and it gets brighter in some sense. And maybe I have to... can't really do that. I probably should move the first keyframe a little forward, but I'm not sure if I want to do that. I'm not sure if it wrecks things if I do that. So I'm currently on this frame, so let's go right here and create a keyframe, go to the next one, and can I remove key? What does this do? So if I go here, yes, here it already becomes brighter, 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 brighter. And here it's the brightest. Okay. Maybe I want the brightest already to be here. So let's create a keyframe, bring this one down, and go to the next keyframe and delete it. Remove key. So if we look at the animation now, we have this dark first start, and it's getting brighter when it pans out, so we can see the characters in some sense. This is probably how I want the animation to look. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm also pretty sure that I can't make it look any better. Maybe you guys disagree and say, why did you make all these changes? It looked the best in the first place, but this is basically what I can do. And yeah, I'm playing with the idea of adding this in front of my game. So if you launch it, you can see this, and maybe I add a trailer right afterwards, but make it skippable in some sense. I think this would make a good start for. It would create a good atmosphere at the beginning. But it would also mean that everybody has to look at this pan out, and I'm not very happy with it. But yeah. Okay, we'll see what I'm going to do. I'm probably just going to end the video. I can show you one thing which might be interesting is the way you export it. And the way you export is export your video in DaVinci Resolve is by telling DaVinci which part of your timeline you want to export with this gray line here. And sometimes you have this, especially if you did some edits and you exported a video and then you edited your video, and then you have to take the cursor here and drag it all the way out. And now you have full animation. I'm making my life a whole lot easier by saying I want to export it for YouTube. And yeah, you usually browse, but I'm not sure if I open an Explorer and this has some information that I don't want to show, so I'm not going to do that. And then you add it to render queue, it's getting all there, and then you can say render it all, and voila, your animation is finished. And now since really like to talk, this video is probably 40 minutes long by now, if I didn't cut out half of it. So I hope you had a wonderful experience. Add, I'm going to add the finished video right here, and I hope you learned at least one thing. I mentioned a few things, and probably one of them you didn't know, and maybe you can incorporate them into your routine, or maybe it was just interesting listening to how I'm doing things. Okay, that's it from me. Have a nice one. Goodbye.